My name is Jerome Ferry. My cameraman is Alan Eggers. We're doing a video interview with Sister Anne Murray Stickling, RSM, a lifelong resident, Sister of Mercy, now residing at the Sacred Heart Convent on the Mount Mercy campus. Sister, could you tell us what year and where you were born?
Yes, in 1901.
In what?
In Ambia, Indiana, in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Ambia was our address, and then I don't know how far they lived in the country on a farm anyway.
Yeah. What was your folks' names?
My father was Henry Stickling, and my mother was Anna Schroeder Stickling. Schroeder.
Did you have any brothers and sisters?
I had two sisters, one older and one younger, and no brothers.
What was your sisters' names?
Well, my oldest sister was Cecilia. When she entered the convent, she was given the name Sister Mary Inviolata. And my younger sister was Amelia. And
your dad moved to Minnesota, I understand.
Yes.
With a thrashing machine.
That's right.
Was times hard then? Could he make a good living farming?
No, the years that he was in Minnesota was 4 drought years, they call it, D-R-O-T-H, I guess it is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure of the spelling. And the crops were poor, and that was the reason they left Minnesota. And his brother was a horse buyer, and he traveled around different states, and he saw this part of place in Scranton, Iowa that was for rent. That was at 180 acres, I think. And they liked the location, and so they rented the farm and moved to Scranton, Iowa. And you want me to tell you why he moved?
Would that have been Scranton or Trenton?
The Scranton, yes.
Scranton.
It's just like there's a town Scranton, one of the eastern states is a very prominent town by the name of Scranton, Pennsylvania, I guess it is.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yes. In how many acres did he was on that farm?
100 at Scranton. I think it was about 180 acres anyway. And he had Clydesdale horses, those beautiful horses with the big white faces, and quite a number of those. They were registered, I think, and registered Jersey cattle. And I remember that they had to have certificates for these animals, and my mother was a wonderful pen person, and they'd sit up late at night and she would write out the certificates while my father would dictate them. And we'd be upstairs in bed.
Were you girls going to country school at this time?
Yes, we started a country school. There, we didn't start the school in Minnesota because it was too cold and the weather was too bad and there was too much snow. I guess my older sister would have been old enough to start the school, but I was just that age school. So we walked to country school about 1.5 miles from where we resided anyway, and that's where I started the school.
How many children were in the school at that time?
I don't have any idea, maybe 10 or 12, something like that.
All grades? Grades 1 through 8?
Yes, I think so. Mm-hmm.
Did your dad ever take you to school in a sled or in a horse and buggy?
I don't remember anything about going to school at Scranton.
When you lived in Iowa at this time, were there any Indians around?
Indians?
Indians, yeah.
Oh no, I should say not.
There wasn't any Indians. Okay.
Oh, the Indians were all up in Dakota and places of that sort.
Yeah. And then from Scranton, your dad moved to where?
To Grand Junction.
Grand Junction.
That was about 30 miles away.
Why did he move to Grand Junction then?
Well, at Scranton, the pastor of the Catholic Church resided in Jefferson, 10 miles away, and he only came twice a month for the liturgy, which we call the Mass too. And my folks weren't pleased with that. They thought that they grew up in German congregations where there was a lot of religious activities going on, and they longed for, and I think my mother prayed that they'd find a good place. And anyway, they found out that there was a place at Grand Junction for sale, a small 30-acre farm, I guess I'd have to say.
Acreage.
Yes. So they sold their Clydesdale horses and their Jersey cattle, and they bought this farm at Grand Junction. And when we moved there, they found out that there was a resident pastor there, that they had Mass every Sunday, and there was also a school a Catholic school taught by Sisters of Mercy from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And they were delighted with all of this, so they packed up and moved to Grand Junction.
So how old were you then?
I was
What grade were you in?
wait just a minute. We moved to Scranton in 1908, so we moved to Grand Junction in 1911, and I was in the 3rd grade then.
9 or 10 years old.
Yeah. Well, let's see, what was I? If it was 1911, I was 9 years old.
Yeah. Could your dad make a living off of this acreage, or would he have a business of some type?
Not too well. When he bought the farm, he hesitated about it because it was such a small acreage, but he was told that there were a lot of farmers around that had extra land, they'd be glad to rent it to him. Well, that went all right for the first year or two, but then the farmers wanted the land for themselves to make money on, so there was none for rent. So my father had to look around for other means, and he was an old thresherman, so one of the things he did in summertime was run the engine on threshing machines for groups of people in the area. He got a contract to haul great big tile. I think they were about 30-inch tiles for those great big ditches that were being put in between Grand Junction and Jefferson, Iowa. And to top it off, to help out, well, he fixed up a wreck and another team, and he got his oldest daughter, Sister Emilada, to drive one of those teams anyway. And so he was making a little more money by having 2 teams hauling a tile. And another time they fixed up a milk route and hauled this beautiful Jersey milk into Grand Junction, and they had quite a number of people who were their patrons at any rate. And those are some of the things that I think of that he did to help us. But we were poor people, though.
These large tile, did they put in between Scranton and Jefferson, or between Grand Junction and Jefferson? Was that for a water line? Water for water?
Well, I don't understand your question.
What did they put through those big tiles? Would it have been water?
Oh yes, and they're big ditches. And every time I pass now over between Grand Junction and Jefferson, I think of Butterick Creek was one of them, and I don't know what the other one was now. So, and you pass over the bridges and going to Jefferson anyway.
Mm-hmm. Did your mother? Did she have any gainful employment? Could she?
No, she was a house mother anyway, and they didn't go out and work. Women didn't work outside of the home 70 years ago or 100 years ago either, as far as that goes. But she was a good mother take care of, and she helped my father a great deal on the doing things on the farm, I know.
You had mentioned her being a seamstress.
Oh, yes. She made all of our own clothes, and my mother could even, if she saw a picture in a book, she could make her own pattern and so on. And I never, not until I was teaching school and earned my own money, did I ever buy a ready-made dress. My mother made them all. Or my sister Amelia had the same talent, and she made my graduation dress even.
Did any of the neighbors hire your mother to make clothes?
No, they didn't. I don't think they knew she had that talent.
Sister, we're going to show you a picture. We're going to have Alan take a picture of you three girls.
Mm-hmm.
It's Cecilia, her older sister, on the left, and Amelia, her younger sister, in the center, and then Sister Anne Marie, her name was Amanda then, on the right. And is that your father and mother just above that sister?
Yes.
Is that Henry and Anna?
That is their wedding picture in 1898.
1898.
Mm-hmm.
Sister, do you remember your dad's first automobile? Your first automobile?
Oh, my father never owned an automobile. So after I was teaching school, I had an uncle who was left a legacy of his parents, and he sent me a gift of $600, and I bought a car with it. What was it? A four-door Ford car.
How old would you have been when you bought the car?
I don't know.
Did you have to have driver's license then?
No.
No driver's license?
No. No, the man who sold the car took you out once or twice and had to drive around, and that was it.
Sister, do you remember your Christmases at home when you was a little girl?
And some homes, yes.
Was Christmas a happy time in your home?
Oh, yes, it was wonderful.
Your folks were very religious, I take it.
We didn't have any Christmas tree, but we always put our a dinner plate out on the table at night. And we always made a cake for Santa Claus. And Mother would make it on the lid of a gallon syrup can and cover it with white icing and put it in the cupboard somewhere where Santa Claus could find it. But he never ate. He never took any cake for some reason. We were disappointed. And on our plate we'd have candy and nuts, and we'd each have one gift at it. And the one that I remember was a little religious book that told about the story of Moses and the bulrushes, and I forgot what the other one was, but it was all religious, and I really cherished it.
Did your parish have midnight mass?
I don't think so. He had to come from Jefferson, so 10 miles away, so they probably had it in Jefferson.
Okay. At Christmas time, Sister, back then, and it still does in a lot of families, the Christmas really continues on until January 6th, the Epiphany. Is that the way you celebrated it then, the Christmas season?
No. We had New Year's Day, and the night before New Year's, we hung our shoes by the shoestring on the doorknob, and Santa Claus would see them in any way, and we got something for apples or candy, I guess, at New Year's, and that's all we celebrated anyway.
There was a German custom that goes way back. The German people used to hide a pickle in a tree and then whatever child found it would get a special gift.
Oh.
Did you ever hear that?
No, I never heard of that. That's a good story for me.
Did your dad speak German? Did your folks speak German at home?
No, that's a good question. When the folks left Indiana, they lived in Minnesota for a while, and there were a great, it was a German settlement that had moved, people had moved in from Indiana, I think, and they all talked German in their homes, and the children were not learning to speak English well. So when my folks moved away and moved to Scranton, Iowa, they made up their mind that they would not speak German in the home. They wanted us to learn to speak English well. And I never, the only German I ever knew was a year in college. When I went to college, I learned, I took German for a while. And I regretted very much that my folks hadn't taught me German.
The 4th of July, sister, was that a big day?
Well, usually there'd be something going on in the little town of Scranton. Maybe some carnival would come in or something of that sort, and we might go to that. Or maybe there would be a circus. One of the big things, it wasn't for the 4th of July, but Barnum and Bailey and I don't know what the other one was that had a big circus. They would come to Jefferson, and my father would take us to those circuses, but that was our 4th of July anyway.
Something you look forward to. That.
Yeah. My mother would buy those little firecrackers and sparklers down at the store, and we'd have those out in the yard in the evening, I guess.
When did your mother pass away?
In 1917, when I was just 15 years old.
What did she have an illness? Did she have an illness?
Yes, she had pneumonia for 2 months, for 2 weeks, and she was just able to sit up that day. And for the first time, Sister Inviolata was taking care of her. It was 2 weeks after Christmas, and she got a heart attack, and she died very suddenly.
How old did you say you were?
15.
15, and Anelda would have been 13 years old. Did you more or less take care of the house for your dad then? Or?
Yes, we did. Sister Inviolata continued on to the end of that year, and then she quit school to be the housekeeper at any rate. So she had not finished her high school yet when she entered the convent in 1918, I guess it was, that she did. My mother died in 1917. She entered the convent in the summer of 1918. I think I have that date right.
Sister, at the parish in Grand Junction, in this time period here, did you ever have 40 hours?
Oh, yes. About every year.
Would you explain what 40 hours were?
The Blessed Sacrament in Catholic churches is really the body and blood of Christ himself. Because if you read in the Bible, you'll find out that at the Last Supper, and everybody knows what the Last Supper was for the apostles that Jesus held, told about, he said, picked up a piece of bread from the table, and he said, "This is my body." And since Jesus Christ was God, that could really become his body. And he was so sorry to be leaving his apostles and the other people around. He wanted to leave a gift for them, and this was the gift that he gave them. So whenever a Catholic priest does a Mass and says these words during the Mass, why, that really becomes Christ's body and blood in the form of a bread. And that's what is held in the, stored in the Catholic Church, in the tabernacle in the church. And the 40 hours is 40 hours of adoration to Jesus Christ in this Blessed Sacrament in the church.
This would mean that every evening for a week, I think, the parishioners would all come.
Oh yes, the parishioners were very, very devoted, and they would come. And sometimes, well, I guess that would be a mission that I'm thinking of. A mission was something that they would have some priest from the outside area come in and give talks of a religious nature at the church for a whole week. That was mission, but this is 40 hours was just, it would last for 40 hours. That'd be about two and a half days or what, how many?
Yeah. And then at these missions, did priests come in from all of the surrounding parishes to attend the mission?
Not that I know of. We were quite a distance away from, there weren't very many priests around at that time. I don't know where they would be. Our pastor resided in Jefferson. Well, of course, in Grand Junction, he resided right there. But I have to say, I don't know.
Okay. So when did you went to high school in Grand Junction? High school?
Well, that's a sister school. It was high school also.
Also, yeah. And when did they have sports then for you to participate in?
No, there weren't any sports. The girls that boarded together, there were quite a number of girls would be coming in from, especially from Perry and around. At one time there was as many as 30 girls boarding there, and they had their own basketball team. But as far as the boys were, there weren't enough of boys around who, I just have to say I don't know.
Yeah. When did you graduate from high school? What
In
year?
1920.
1920. And did you have any idea what you were going to do then, as far as a job?
No, I didn't, because Sister in Vilada had gone to the convent a couple of years before, so I knew that I was going to, but I couldn't go to the convent at that time, and I loved teaching, so I wanted to teach school.
So did you get a teaching job?
Yes, and this was interesting. I prepared for teaching by going to Carroll for the 3 summer months, and I was ready to teach, but I never thought about going out and looking for a school, and no one had advised me to. And I met a lady from Grand Junction at the school at Carroll one day, and she wanted to know where I was going to teach, and I told her I didn't have a school yet. And she said, well, you better be looking into it. There's only one place that I know of that doesn't have a teacher around about. Our township was, what do I want to say, consolidated by that time, and all the children from all the schools around were closed in our township, and they went to Grand Junction to this public school. So the only school in that was open was 10 miles north of Jefferson, which was about 20 miles from my hometown. So I got my application in quickly, and I got to school because nobody else wanted it, I guess.
What was your starting wage?
$50 a month.
Was that room and board, or just did you room?
Yes. Usually there was somebody that lived somewhere near the school that would be willing to take care of the teacher and board them for that. So this year the school was right. The place that I got for boarding was right across from the school, and a short distance. And I think I got $50 a month.
15 or 50?
$5 for board. I don't know if that $5 was a month or a week. I can't tell you which it was.
Okay. In country school, did the kids, any of them go barefooted to school?
I didn't understand your question.
Did any of the kids go barefooted to country school?
Well, I'm sure they all did in the summertime.
Okay. Did the older boys ever give you any trouble?
No, never.
Never? Did the older boys, did they ever chew or smoke? Did you catch them chewing or smoking, or
No.
no?
They were farm boys, and they went home and helped milk cows and and whatnot, so they didn't have time for anything else.
I forgot to ask you, just prior to this, the World War I ended. Do you remember the ending of World War I? Did anything happen?
Well, I guess there were a lot of... No, I don't remember anything about it.
You were telling us earlier about all the bells ringing.
Oh, we could hear that from from Grand Junction, which was 3 miles, and if there was anything went on, well, we didn't know it. We never went out at night. Too far from town, nothing going on. The only thing I remember is when a carnival came to town one time, and my mother took the 3 of us girls in to the celebration anyway, and they had a merry-go-round. I can remember that.
Where did you get your first inspiration to be a nun?
Well, my mother used to she went to a sister school in Illinois, and she used to say what a nice life the sisters have, at any rate. But I hadn't made any special decision until I was, I suppose I was about 15, something of that sort about after my mother had died. Well, we had friends that wanted one of us girls to come and help her clean house. And of course, I said to Sister Yolanda, I said, well, I'm going to go. You'll have to stay home and help here and manage things at home. So I went anyway for 2 weeks anyway, and this girl's husband was very, I'd say, mean to her. He'd lock her in the upstairs and then do various things of that sort. And I thought, if that's what married life is like, none for me.
Did your sister ever try to talk you into becoming a nun? Did you ever talk about it between the two of you?
No, we never did.
Okay.
I was just surprised when she said she was going to be a nun, because we had one of those missions at our church, and the priest who talked about the life of a nun was so impressed her so that she decided that that's what she wanted to do, even though she was I don't know what time she was. She was probably 17 at that time.
Did you ever have a boyfriend when you were in high school?
No, there was only 1 boy or 2 boys in high school.
And you didn't care for either one of them?
No, I didn't want it. We had friends that lived in Ogden, and we would go back and forth with them and have a... they were like your cousins. We were about all...
So what year did you become a postulant, sister?
1929.
29. And why St. Mercy? Why did you decide to go with
The Sisters of
Mercy? Yeah.
Well, my older sister was a sister there, and I'd known the Sisters of Mercy all my life, and I thought that's where they had taught us all through school from the 3rd grade on up until I graduated. So I didn't look any farther for a place to go. Nowadays, young people go around, they investigate various convents and see what they do and so on, but I didn't do that.
Did you know anything about Cedar Rapids before you come here?
Well, I would visit my sister.
Okay. So you were familiar with the Mount Mercy campus then, in the Sacred Heart Convent?
Well, I knew it was here anyway. Yeah. I'd visited here a couple of times.
Mm-hmm. And when did you profess your final vows? What year, sister?
6 years after. 1935.
And you were given given or chosen the name Sister Anne Marie?
We could make a suggestion. Our Reverend Mother had made a promise to Saint Who did she make it to? I don't know. But St. Anne, I guess. St. Anne was the grandmother of Jesus, if you remember. Remember that, at any rate. And she had great influence with Jesus, at any rate, I guess, because I remember Mother had made a promise to St. Anne if she would see that we got a half a dozen, or not a half a dozen, 12 young women into our community to help us with the work we were doing, why she'd give everyone the name of Fan in their name. So that, although there weren't quite 12, she kept her promise, and I could suggest what I wanted, so I suggested Anne Marie, and that's what I got.
In the sisters, their names, some of them are quite unusual. How did they go about, like your sister Enbalada?
Well, in those days, the Reverend Mother made the decision what their names would be, and Enbalada, she gave all those that entered that summer that was getting the habit, she gave all some form or title of the Blessed Mother, the Mother of Jesus. So there was Inviolata, which meant Mother Most Pure. There was Sister Assumpta, which favored the ascension of our, I don't know, Assumption means ascending in heaven anyway. Visitation was our Blessed Mother in the Bible someplace, and when she went to visit her cousin Elizabeth shortly after she knew that she was to be the Mother of God at any rate, and De Bon Secours was one that was hard to do, and I don't know why in the world she gave her that. Maybe De Bon Secours, which means good hope. It's for French, I believe, and this sister must have been a teacher of foreign languages or something that she got that name. I don't know.
Sister, I'm going to have Alan take a picture of this board before we go any further.
A picture of which?
Of the board here, the upper right-hand corner, Alan.
Which board?
Right, the board here, sister.
Oh, I was teaching country school.
This is you.
Yes.
And it says, after graduation, I'm a Greene County teacher, 1928.
Which one is she?
You're on the left, your sister. Is that you?
Yes.
Down here, this is where Sister Anne Marie first became a postulant in 1929. And just above this must have been after you took your final vows.
Which one?
Up here. That's the three.
Oh, that was when I celebrated my 25th anniversary as a Sister of Mercy.
25th. And you are on the left of that, sister? Is that
and
you?
My sister really in the center.
Okay. And Sister
Inviolata.
Inviolata.
On the other.
Okay. Sister, when you took your vows, what vows did you take?
Oh, poverty, chastity, and obedience. And I guess maybe we took them one. Well, that's all we said at that time. Now they say, and the service of the poor. Well, I don't know whether that service of the poor and the sick, whether that's a vow or not, but we say poverty, chastity, and obedience. Is what I remember, anyway.
Okay. Was your dad able to attend when you professed your final vows? Was your dad able to come?
No, he never came at any time, I believe, because I don't think they invited people. I don't know.
Did he ever tell you how proud he was of you and your sister?
Did he ever join us?
Did he ever tell you how proud he was of you and your sister?
When he was dying, he was on his deathbed. They knew he couldn't recover. One of our friends from home visited him in the hospital, and he was in Cedar Rapids in the hospital. And he was quiet, and he said, Henry, I suppose he said, well, now that your life is about drawing to a close, how do you feel about it? Or some sort of a question anyway. And his answer was, I'm proudest that I have two sisters that are sisters of mercy.
Praying for
I have
me.
two daughters that are sisters of mercy.
Very nice. Did you ever get a chance to go home and see him when you was in the convent?
No, let's see. I don't think I ever went. Sister Inviolata was the one that was able to come home. For the first time when she came home, after she took her first vows, I believe, she was able to come. All four of those that entered, of the group that entered that time, four of them were from the Grand Junction area. And they all got to come home at the same time. And as I understood, it was one of the first times that the community allowed the young sisters to come home after that. But anyway, we were very glad to have her come and visit us. For 3 days they were permitted to stay, and then they went back anyway.
If you or your sister went home, you had to have a companion, didn't you?
Yes, we did, until this went on for years. Well, the mercy rules, I think, were very, very strict. They're more like cloistered rules in the early days, and they didn't do much chaining. But when they said Pope John opened up the windows, you've heard that instruction. Our communities had different, they call them chapters, meetings, and they can make decisions that they wanted to. And the younger sisters were coming up and able to help make the decisions too. And this is many of the changes in the communities were made, and this one was, at this time, at any rate, that they didn't, I don't know about companions, whether that was part of it or not, but they would be permitted to go home if there was a need for it. I think that was it. Permitted to go home. If their parents had a need for them to come, or if they had a need to go home for some reason or other. That's the way I remember it anyway.
After Vatican II, it was that time your habits changed?
Yes.
You didn't have to wear the bonnet if you didn't want to?
Well, it went over a period of years, really. In the very beginning, what was it? Oh, there was a certain style of a habit, and then in the next chapter, which would be maybe 4 or 6 years after, why they could meet again, and they would change it a little bit and add a little more to it until finally they got to the place where now a lay dress is permissible.
Yeah. So if you were able and if you wanted to go downtown, a sister in this day and age could wear regular street clothes, right? She
Me?
wouldn't.
Could you?
Could you? Yes.
I could if I wanted to, but I have never worn regular street clothes. I've always worn something that resembles a nun anyway.
Yes. You're from the old order. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Sister, I'm going to have Alan put his camera back on where you and your sister are in your habits.
Oh.
What did you call the bonnet that you wore on your head?
Coif, C-O-I-F.
And the part below your neck, what did you call that?
A gamp, G-U-I-M-P-E.
Why did they call it a gamp?
I don't know. It was our order was founded in Ireland, and it must have some reference to that. I never asked.
So, sister, what was your first job after you professed your vows? Did you go off teaching someplace?
Well, I taught before I professed my vows, since I had everything. I had all the knowledge, probably, excepting I didn't have the... See, I had gone to college different times, and I don't know how I want to explain it, but wasn't graduated from a 2-year college, but I had all the knowledge so there was a need for me to, and I was sent to St. Wenceslaus School about a month after I entered the convent. I was assigned to that, but I came back every weekend to the convent. But I taught 5th and 6th grade at St. Wenceslaus School.
So you were a novice then?
Yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And the second year I taught the 7th and 8th grade in Ames, Iowa.
And then
The third year I spent at Sacred Heart Convent in the novitiate, learning more about the religious life.
Mm-hmm. And then where did you go?
Let's see, my next assignment was 2 years that I taught in Manchester at St. Xavier's, I believe was the name of the school.
St. Xavier's?
Yes, and there's something that I want to insert right here. 2 weeks ago, I celebrated, what was it? I'm celebrating so many things.
Well, it could have been your Diamond Jubilee or your 100th birthday.
No, my 100th birthday. And who came as a guest to the open house that we had on one day was one of the boys that I taught school in Manchester. Gerald Holtz was his name. And he's now living with his son here in Cedar Rapids. And his son brought him to my Jubilee, or to my open house for that. And I was delighted to see him, really.
He must have thought you were somebody special to remember you after all
I
those
guess so.
years. And you did very good remembering his name, too.
Oh.
I'm not that good.
He was one of my favorite students.
And then where, sister, after Manchester?
I taught 2 years in the old one at Sacred Heart School. I taught the 8th grade.
And then after that?
Well, that's when my Reverend Mother asked whether I would consider they were looking for someone to fill in on the X-ray field in the hospitals that which is staffed. If I would like to go to, let's see, some of the sisters were going to the College of St. Teresa's in Winona, Minnesota, and she said you could go with these two sisters and get your degree and then see what we can do about studying X-ray. So that's what I did. I went up to St. Teresa's in for a year and a half or so till I was finished.
And what did your course cover, sister? Because that's way back in the field of X-ray.
Well, there wasn't much at St. Teresa's that would prepare you for X-ray. I had a course in German, but most of them were science courses, chemistry, and let's see, can't think of it. Anatomy, and some other course, microbiology, something like that, I think. But there wasn't any actual work, you see, for X-ray. So then after I finished there at college, my Reverend Mother made the arrangements for me to go to Old at Mercy Hospital there and work with sister in X-ray. It was like learning on the job, as it were.
Apprenticeship?
Yes, yes, it was a sort of an apprenticeship, and that was for 6 months. And then following that, I had a short course in Chicago, and then I went to Mercy Hospital also and worked under Dr. Erskine.
What were you called, an X-ray technician?
Yes, that's the title then. But now they say technologist. A technologist is somebody who knows what she's doing, I guess.
Makes more money.
And when a technician, they think is somebody that just pushes a button.
So in Chicago, sister, did they Did your course consist of the X-ray technology? Did they tell you how
Yes,
X-ray works?
It was learning the positions that you put a person into. If you're going to take an X-ray of a hand, well, you don't just put it down flat, but you have to angle it and so on, so on. So all those positions that you learn, the simple ones at any rate.
And your education allowed you to operate the machinery?
Yes.
Was it dangerous in those early days?
Well, if depending on what kind of machine you were using, if the wires weren't shock-proof, why, it was somewhat, you had to be careful anyway.
There was a lot of voltage involved. And
yes.
did you ever have an incident or accident happen when you were...
Any incident?
Or accident?
No accident, but it was just different. I mentioned two things that stay in mind. One day, I was early in the morning in the X-ray department and brought a patient down for an X-ray, and the radiologist would come in the morning and be around about and supervise things, but they weren't here yet anyway. And when I made the exposure, when I pressed the button, as it were, why, there was a terrible noise and a light flashed up near the ceiling some way or other, and I knew something was wrong anyway. So we got the patient was on the X-ray table, so we got her off and got her back to her room anyway. And when the radiologist came, this was Dr. Hurleman, you might have known him. He still lives in Cedar Rapids, although he's retired. And he said, well, sister, I'll watch up here and see if I can see a light flashing, and you press the button and make the exposure and see what happens. I was scared, but I did it anyway. And he saw the light flash, and he knew that the cables leading to the X-ray machine from the outside, anyway, was broken or something of that sort. So that finished my X-ray for the day.
It probably scared your patient, too.
Oh, I don't think she knew what was happening.
So, sister, then when was your next move? Didn't you go to Montana for a while?
Yes, after this year, I went to Montana for 5 years. Oh, no, I call it 5 years, at any rate. And one of the sisters there, although I felt that I wasn't real trained yet after a year or so, one of the sisters in the department in Montana was trained on the job too. She was an X-ray technician, I guess you'd say. So she sort of supported me on the way. And while I was there, there was a great need for somebody to work in medical technology, and since I had the proper training that would fit in all right, why, I was asked to go to Spokane for a year in what you have to put in an internship there in medical technology. So I had a break there in Montana, and I went to Spokane, Washington, and then when I came back, why, I fit in at where I was before and finished out the 5 years that I say I was in Montana.
Yeah.
Anyway.
What part of Montana?
Near Glacier National Park. The hospital is the town is known as Kalispell. You may hear people talk about that at any rate. And how the Sisters of Mercy happened to be out there managing that hospital, I think, was some bishop who was acquainted with that area saw the need for sisters in that area. So somehow or other, the sisters were asked to come out to Montana and start a hospital. That was in 1912, and amen.
And then when you come back from Washington, what was your next job then?
Well, I finished out at Montana, and I went to Anamosa then, and I was at the Anamosa General Hospital there for 5 years, doing both X-ray and medical technology.
Did you ever treat any prisoners from the reformatory? Do you remember that?
Yes, I remember one time they brought in about a half a dozen or so. They had to have chest X-rays because of the fact that to rule out TB, I guess, tuberculosis. And I know I was a little precautious about it, but they had a good assistant that came with them anyway, and so I got through it all. And that's the only one that I recall ever working with. Later on, they had their own X-ray at the Anamosa Reformatory, so we didn't have to take care of any more of their patients.
Sister, in all of these years that you traveled around, did you ever have to come back to Mount Mercy here in Cedar Rapids for meetings or anything, or did they leave you out there on your own?
No, most of all, we went to the state meeting in Des Moines or wherever it was held. That was once a year.
Okay. And then, Sister, after Anamosa, did you come back to Cedar Rapids?
Yes, I was assigned to come to Cedar Rapids and work in and manage the X-ray department and help with the teaching of the School of X-ray Technology.
You were a supervisor.
Yes.
In the X-ray department, and you also taught. Was there quite a few young people interested in X-ray technology?
Well, anyway, the school had just opened a couple of years before that, and they would send their application in, and you can make your own selection about which ones you fit in best, at any rate. And there were a class of 2, because you had to have an opportunity to well, I shouldn't say opportunity. You couldn't take too many because you have to give them a chance to have any practical experience. So when I went there were 2 in the first year course, and 2 were just going into the second year course. The course was 2 year, a length of 2 years at any rate. So the thing of special interest was when I went there, the class that had in 1 year, and they just had 1 more year, and then they would graduate, finished up 50 years this year. In other words, this was their 50th anniversary. And I reminded the 2 girls, one lives in Waterloo and the other lives in Cedar Rapids, and I reminded them that it was 50 years since they graduated from X-ray. And so they came to my house, and we had dinner together anyway.
Did you ever flunk any of your students out?
No, I myself never did. Some of them quit because they felt that they weren't suited for the work or something of that sort. But after they finished the course at Mercy Hospital, the national board has a national organization has a examinations they arrange each year, and if they pass that, they can become what they call a registered X-ray technologist, and that is the one that we prepared our students to work for, to get ready to write the national board examination, and none of those ever failed that examination, which was quite a thing, I am told.
You worked in the X-ray department for 22 years, right?
Oh, at Mercy?
Yes, Mercy.
Yes,
yeah.
that long at Mercy.
Yeah. Did you ever get a chance to go downtown in Cedar Rapids in those years? Shopping or?
Yes, whenever I wanted to, which wasn't very often, because we didn't have any special reason. Our habit as we call our dress at that time, was always ordered from some place in the East where they made sisters' outfits anyway, so we didn't have much reason to go down until later on.
Did the order, the Sisters of Mercy, did they pay for your clothes, or did you have to pay for them out of your?
Oh, we didn't have any money. We didn't get any salary.
Because you took the vow of poverty then.
Yeah.
Could you have a certain amount of spending money? Would they allow that?
Well, not until later years.
Yeah.
I can't remember when, just when it was. Probably after Pope John opened the windows.
So if your folks, or if somebody had given you some money for a Christmas present before Vatican II, you'd have to turn it into the convent. You couldn't keep it for yourself.
Well, I'm not sure how it went, but I know the way they do now is they say, "Is there anything you'd like to get with this, sister? And if you don't want it, why you turn it in for some good cause to help the poor."
Yeah. So nowadays, if somebody give you some money for a gift, you could keep it for yourself if you wanted to. Is that correct?
Yes. With the what would I say? With the I can't think of the word I want to use. Not the consent of the. See, each one of us have if we don't have the Mother General, we have a contact person, and we have their advice, I guess is what I'd want to say.
Somebody you could talk to, or
Yes.
console, or who was the hospital administrator when you were working down there?
Well, let's see. When I first went, Sister Morrow, Maura, and she's passed away a good long time now. She was quite an administrator. And then later Sister Lawrence, and Sister Lawrence passed away about a year ago. Everybody knew Sister Mary Lawrence. She was the one that did all the building, we say.
When you worked down there, Sister, how many nuns do you suppose were at the hospital at that time?
How many?
How many nuns were at the
Sister?
hospital?
Well, at one time there might have been about 25.
25.
There were one or two or three of the elderly sisters that were retired there. They'd always been at the hospital.
When did your dad pass away, Sister? When did your dad pass away? What year do you remember?
In 1930. I was teaching in Ames that year.
Did I ask you, did you get home for his funeral?
Oh yes, I arranged it. In fact, he had sold his farm, his little farm, and he was working on an Indian ranch in Dakota when he fell with a horse and had an injury that led to his illness, I think. And when I was teaching in Ames, some friends brought him over from Grand Junction, where he was living at that time. He had his own apartment in downtown in Grand Junction. And that's the first time he saw me as a Sisters of Mercy with the Mercy Habit, I think. And I hadn't seen him for a long time either. And that was in August when schools opened. So about October, the sisters from the school in Grand Junction wrote to me and said that my father was ill and he had been taken to the hospital in Carroll, and we better come and see him if we could. So I got in contact with my sister in Vilada. She was teaching in Waterloo at that time, and we arranged to go to Carroll to see him. And the nurse on duty there at the hospital, St. Francis Hospital, I guess it was a Catholic hospital anyway, said that my father's illness was terminal, that he was really bad off. So Sister Violetta arranged to take my father to our hospital in Cedar Rapids. And he had to go on a stretcher, as I remember, on the baggage coach. He was that ill. And he lived until the 12th of December. And then he passed away here at Mercy Hospital in Cedar Rapids.
Sister, as with anything else, was there a lot of changes due to the technology in X-ray over the years from the time you started?
Not changes, but I'd say advancements. Oh, yes.
What were some of the biggest ones, you think? Did it make your job easier over the years?
Well, I haven't been in an X-ray since the big changes came. That is, I haven't been down. Mercy has some of the big machines and so on, and the MIR, whatever that is, and whatnot. So I wouldn't use that. I just say.
And nowadays they have MRI and they have CAT scan and.
Oh.
Would you like to be?
No.
No.
I can answer that right away. They were just coming in when I retired, so.
Sister, in your position, in your knowledge, you didn't get paid yourself. What would a radiologist expect to get paid after he graduated from high school, as far as a wage is concerned?
Oh, you mean
what would a radiologist get paid for his
you
work?
mean the man or the supervisors like
the men, the technicians that
oh, the technicians. Well, it varies so that I just don't remember really.
Was it a good paying job?
But not as good as nursing.
It wasn't.
No.
Okay. When you were at Mercy, Sister, was the tradition then that some of the nuns went around and visited all the sick patients in the room?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Pray for them and.
Yes. And even with the work that I was doing, when there weren't sisters on every floor, I was asked to visit sisters on a certain floor, so often.
Mm-hmm. Sister, I am going to have Alan pick up the picture here of when you were in the X-ray laboratory. This was in what year do you suppose, Sister?
Well,
Well, that's okay. But the girl standing there beside you.
I was trying to think what year she visited. She graduated in.
Do you remember her name?
Yes, Patricia Lewis.
Patricia Lewis. And the gentleman?
Steve Havlicek.
Steve Havlicek or Havlicek?
Whatever it is.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
They were students of yours?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And you were the
Supervisor.
supervisor, teacher. Mm-hmm. Very good.
Did you have a question?
No. What year did you retire, Sister?
Well, I left Mercy in 1971, so I was trying to think that it was either the late 60s or 1970 that was taken.
What year was your retirement? What?
Well, I left Mercy in 1971, but I went out to 01 for 4 years, and then from there I went back to Anamosa again, and I was there probably about 6 years.
Before we go any further, Sister, you have a plaque here.
Do I have what?
You have a plaque here that was made up by Patricia Lewis.
Do I have one?
This here wasn't.
Yes, that was made by her.
But Patricia Lewis, I'm going to let you put it in front of you so Alan can see it on the.
Oh, oh yeah.
Might read what's
Yes, I'm holding it straight.
You're fine.
Fine. That was a very nice thing she did for you.
Well, I tried to get in touch with her, and I wondered how her home was in What's that little town west of Independence? I know your geography, huh? I can't think of it.
Yes, I do, but I can't think of it. Anyway, you were not able to get a hold of her for your...
No, I wrote to, the way I did, I called the supervisor at the X-ray there at Mercy now, and he sent me the names of 3 people that might fill in to her, and I wrote letters to them, and I never got any answer from them, so they weren't the right person anyway. But if I wanted to investigate it farther, if I could find out the names of her parents, they lived at this little town west of Independence. Why, I might be able to find out where she is.
Sister, does Mount Mercy, do they still receive any new postulants anymore?
We have one that just entered very, very recently, or they came in as a postulant anyway, but it's first for a long time. What the young people do nowadays, they want to, well, maybe they're afraid of being told what to do or what. They want to be their own or what, but the same communities are experiencing that, I wanted to say.
You celebrated a jubilee, didn't you? I mean,
Well, yes.
2000? Would that be your diamond?
I had a jubilee of 70 years in what was last year?
2001?
In 99, I think.
99 or 2000?
No, it was 2000, that was it.
You're
70 years in 2000. And my 100th anniversary in 2001, I guess. Huh? Too many jubilees.
Sister, I noticed your ring on your finger. Mm-hmm. Is this what you received when you
when we take our final vows?
Took your final vows.
Mm-hmm.
And the significance of this is?
It's just like a wedding ring for a married couple anyway. And we're married. You can put it in plain English. You can say we're married to Christ, as it were.
To Christ. And is there an inscription on the inside of the ring?
Yes, mine is all for Jesus. No, that isn't it either. Thy love and thy grace.
Thy love and thy grace.
Yeah, and the reason I chose that years ago, I suppose I was in high school. I don't know when it was. I read a story, account of a girl who was working in the city, and she would come in every night and make a visit, and it would be like Immaculate Conception or someplace, and that was her prayer. She asked for God's love and God's grace anyway, and it sort of impressed me too. And I thought, well, I guess that's what I want anyway too. So that's the reason I chose that.
Mm-hmm. And you celebrated a big birthday party here just recently.
Yes.
100 years. Did you have a big party?
Yes.
Were you overwhelmed?
Yes. They told me that there were 125 people that signed the book, that they were present here, but I got, almost 200 birthday cards. Some came by mail, and others were brought in some way or other. I enjoyed it very much because I am the oldest sister in the community anyway now.
What is the date of your birthday?
What is
the 14th of December, and that's on a Friday. So Sister Judith is at the hospital. I don't know if you know her now. She's only been there or not. She was in charge of her arrangements anyway, and she decided that it would be a good thing if we wanted to do something on the 14th, my birthday, to have ice cream and cake or something of that sort for the sisters, and wait until Sunday and have an open house for relatives and friends and so on. because it'd be easier for them to come on a Sunday than it would be on a Friday or something of that sort.
Sister, what do you contribute your longevity to? Your mother didn't live to be old, or your dad?
Oh, I think the grace of God, I guess.
Did you ever smoke?
Did
you
what?
ever smoke?
No.
Did you ever drink?
No, I don't like beer.
You probably didn't do drugs either. They didn't have them back then.
No, they weren't. No, I think it was just God himself. I had one aunt who lived to be 92, and she passed away. She's been dead almost 20 years now, I think. And my sister in Vilada was 95 when she died. But I don't know.
Good, clean living.
I guess
In the grace of God.
the Lord gave me good health. That was one thing, believe it or not. Not until I broke my hip did I have a real session in the hospital. Sometimes I was there overnight for some. I wouldn't call it be over there. At any rate, so I have had good health up until this time anyway. And
that is the only major thing you had happen to you, is a broken hip?
Yes.
Very good record. When you get to be 100 years old, is it kind of sad to think that a lot of your friends have already passed away? Or?
It would be if I weren't living in a convent. I know that my aunt, who lived to be 92, she used to say that all of her friends were gone. She used to have people that she played rummage with or whatever game she played, and now they don't even know the game anymore. So she was kind of lonely in that way. But I'm not. I love to read, and I can't find I have a lot of books upstairs in the bookcase, and I'm waiting to find time to read. But something's always coming up all the time. I have these 100 letters that I won't answer all the cards that I got for my 100th birthday, but I have a few very precious ones that I need to answer, and I have all those, and I'm always having things coming up that I have to do that I don't have time to read all those books that are in that bookcase.
Did you ever think you'd like to have a computer?
No, I don't know. I don't know how to work. I don't know anything about it. I'd have to have somebody teach me first.
Sister, if you had your life to live over again, would you have wanted to do anything different, or was there anything that you weren't able to do and you wished you could have?
I can't think of anything right now.
You're very satisfied with the way your life went.
I am very grateful that I followed my vocation as a Sister of Mercy. I would say that, because I know there are girls in high school with me. They all said they wanted to be sisters, and every one of them married very after, and some of them didn't have too easy a life. One girl, I think, her husband was an invalid for a long time, and so on. So I'll say that. And sometimes you might hear a sister say, "Well, I wouldn't do that again if I had." But I never have said that, and I never felt that way about it.
Do you have any goals in life?
Any goals?
Goals that you want to fulfill?
Yes, I'd like to go out to Grand Junction to a First Mass next June.
Really? That would be terrific if you...
I'll tell you about that. Monsignor Gannon was the last Catholic. Oh no, there was one other young man from Grand Junction. You see, it's a small parish. But I was out, I think I must have been in Montana, but it's a custom to go back to your own parish to say, for your first Mass, as they say. So this young man, his people, and I didn't know him at all, but I was at Grand Junction one time, I think when they're having some kind of a special celebration, and he was at school at Loris, and he was singing in the choir, and I could see him up there in the front of the church. It was a new church, and the choir and everybody was right up in front anyway. And I met him anyway, and later on I found out that he was went to the priesthood, and a few years later on, why, he left the priesthood. And I don't know how long he was out of the priesthood, but our present chaplain, you know Father Ambrose, our chaplain?
No, I don't.
Father Ambrose, he said that Mike Kellogg is his name. He said Mike came back into the seminary, and he's up at St. Paul, St. Paul Seminary. I said, can you get his address for him? I'm going to write to him. So I wrote to him and told him I wanted him to be my prayer partner. And he wrote back, and he said he would very, very gladly do so. And one of his first letters he wrote after going back to St. Paul Seminary, he said, the Lord sure knows what he's doing. He said, I'm so glad that I came back. And his letters are just beautiful. So their first step, the last step before they're ordained a priest is a deacon. Mm-hmm. And he was ordained a deacon the first Sunday in June. And he wrote quickly, and he said, this is kind of on the spur of the moment, but he said, my director contacted me, and he said my last reports were so good that they're going to give him, ordain him a deacon earlier than they expected, and that way he could work in the parishes during the summertime. So the last letter I got, he sent me a picture, and he has his Roman collar on, and it was after his ordination. And then after that, I didn't get to answer his letter until about a week or so ago, because I had so many other things going on. So, but he said that he had been out to Grand Junction, and he had arranged with the pastor to have a first Mass said out there the 23rd of June, so it must be on a Sunday probably, or something of that sort. So I would just like to go back to Grand Junction to a first Mass.
Sister, what's your feelings on what happened at September 11th in New York City?
Oh, I haven't
World
read
Trade
much
Center.
like that.
Did you ever give it any thought or contemplate on it?
I haven't read all the accounts, but I know it was a terrible thing and all of that, and I think that behind it all is what's the matter with the world today? What's the matter with the young people now? What are they training their children about, and what do they know about right and wrong and all those things? The world is in just a mess because of that, and I think it all started when women started leaving the home and going out and earning more money instead of taking care of and training their children for right and wrong and so on. And if it weren't for that, why, we wouldn't have all those messes. Look at that thing down at Oklahoma City, too.
Sister, unless you have any more memories to tell us, we're going to bring this to close. The Cedar Rapids History Center, the Linn County Historical Society, would like to thank you very much for sharing your memories with us. It's been very enjoyable talking to you.
I guess that's one thing people like to do is talk about themselves, and nobody is anxious to know about them.
Thank you.
You're welcome.